right from the 1960s, when Nigeria got its independence, the first coup, corruption was mentioned.
As in, how can the people now contribute in this fight against corruption?
When you look at it, fighting of corruption is not one man business. It's the teamwork. It's the teamwork. If we can come together and fight corruption, we can bury everything overnight.
As a citizen of Nigeria,
what can be done to make the society better? You know, as a woman here, you know, as a mother.
The society doesn't want to give these women opportunities because they think these women can come and dominate the role men play in the society.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the program, The Advocate. My name is Jack Vincent Fidelis and I'm your host. With me to discuss issues, I have Mohammed Bukar Umara, who is the Creative Director, Co-Development Hub. You are welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Jack.
Nigeria is a country with a population of well over 100 million people. The country has potentials, a whole lot of human and natural resources, but because of corruption and lack of accountability in the system, the country is bedeviled on a daily basis by problems. It's on this note that I want to ask my guest what he thinks the role of the youth are in fighting corruption.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Jack, for having me on the TV show to discuss about corruption and accountability in governance.
You're welcome.
Well, the role of young people in fighting against corruption cannot be overemphasized, having seen the significance of young people in driving a society. Young people in Nigeria have the largest population of a people, because almost young people have a large percentage of Nigeria is constituted of young people. So young people have a very vital role to play in corruption. They are the victims of the effects of corruption more than any other population in Nigeria. Because if you see the large number of young people that are out of school, young people that are unemployed, jobless young people, and also people that are being driven into violent extremist groups and the rest, are all young people. And these are all effects of bad governance delivery, good governance delivery, which can be bordered to corruption and also lack of accountability. But when we are talking about corruption, we always talk about corruption at institutional levels, like government institutional levels, and we tend to neglect the aspect of the society, especially at the grassroots level, at academic institution levels, and which are the places that young people play a vital role. Supposedly, young people should have a very good place in the government to have good political participation, but that's not the case in Nigeria. So
I don't know if you know these roles. What you need to elaborate on some of these rules. Maybe you make some enumerations, like you mention one or two of these rules expected of the young people.
Well, most of the decisions that have been made in the government are decisions that have to do with effects on Nigerian populace. And like I said, young people have the largest constitution of the Nigerian populace. So having young people in key roles of positions in the government would have an informed decision of what the young people would face in their today and their tomorrow. When I speak about roles, I'm talking about political roles and especially in political positions, elective political positions. Like the Not Too Young to Run bill was more of a bill and not a bill, because it was a bill that was not complemented with any effort to follow up its actualization. After the Not Too Young to Run bill was passed, how many young people were able to get into positions of power? So
I believe there's reason for it.
Yeah, of course, there's reason for it, and this
probably lack of access to the requisite amount of money needed to vie for political positions.
Not even
It's one of several.
It's one of the several, and normally in a normal circumstance of a normal working nation, I think money should not be even one of the prerequisites of somebody getting into power. But having access to even contest in Nigeria is made in such a way that you cannot contest if you don't have anything. Integrity cannot buy you a ticket to an elective position, and integrity cannot even buy you votes in Nigeria. You understand?
There's need for a radical change.
There is a need for a radical reformation of the system, because the system now does not complement whatever bill is to allow young people to contest. It's not all about contesting. Like if I could remember, the governorship form was sold at almost about more than 20 million naira for
some of the parties.
For some of the parties,
Okay.
And Nigeria for now we can say is a two-party system country.
I understand that.
Yeah. So these are type of the things I'm talking about. Young people can only be in the position to make some of the changes happen, to make informed decisions that have to do with young people. You understand? But
that's actually a reminder. In other parts of the world, young people are taking over the helm of affairs. Yeah. Yes, they are all presidents of powerful countries are below 50 years old.
Yeah.
That means they are relatively young and are already taking vital positions in the world. Yeah. So, having said that, do you see the younger generation of Nigeria now, do you see them shunning corruption or embracing it and even making it worse in our society?
Well, I think it's both of the sides of the coin, because if we want to treat the topic justly and we want to do justice to the topic, we have to say it's both of the sides.
Okay.
In one hand, young people are really fighting against corruption, especially in terms of project tracking, advocacy, and agitation on issues that have to do with corruption. And in the other side, young people are being used as agents of even fueling or igniting corrupt practices. Because when we talk about corrupt practices, not only in government institutions, but even in academic institutions, even in societies, in our homes, in communities, and even in organizations, corporations, be it government or non-governmental organizations, young people are playing a vital role there. And in talking about how young people are fighting against corruption, I can give you many examples of civil society organizations like Connected Development, which is driving the Follow the Money campaign. It's a solely youth-driven organization, constituted by youth, founded by a young person, and also is creating so much awareness that have to do with corruption, using even digital strategies, engaging people online and offline. So this, I think, is one of the hope risers we have right now in the fight against corruption, especially in Nigeria. Because if you see, young people can be reached through two mediums now, offline or online. And to have a wider reach of information dissemination or creating awareness now, we cannot shy away from the significance of social media. And these are one of the strategies that have been adopted by many civil society organizations to see that they fight against corruption. But on the other hand, young people are being used as agents of even fueling corruption, especially in Nigeria.
How?
Even at the institutional levels.
Please elaborate on that a little bit.
In any given institution, corrupt practices does not happen only between one person in a government office or whatever. You understand? It has to do with a collaborative efforts of people working in an institution. You understand?
Yep.
That do some of the maneuvering of transactions or embezzlement of public funds, and in key positions where you have technology being handled, you tend to see that most of it are being handled by young people in most of the organizations. You understand? And these young people sometimes are being used, to do corruption practices. And apart from that, if you come down to the grassroots level at the academic institutions, you have so many young people that follow the easy way, that choose to follow the easy way to get their degree certificates or whatever. And this is one of the biggest problems we have that will have a big impact in the future society.
Thank you very much. I quite appreciate that. Well, In case you are just joining us, the program is The Advocate, a program designed to deliberate on issues of anti-corruption and issues of accountability in governance. If you're having a good time listening to the program, if you don't go away, we'll continue when we get back from the break.
Right from the 1960s, when Nigeria got its independence, the first coup, corruption was mentioned.
As in, how can the people now contribute in this fight against corruption?
When you look at it, fighting of corruption is not one man business. It's the teamwork. It's the teamwork. If we can come together and fight corruption, we can bury everything overnight.
As a citizen of Nigeria,
What can be done to make the society better? You know, as a woman here, you know, as a mother.
The society doesn't want to give these women opportunities because they think these women can come and dominate the role men play in the society.
You are welcome back. My guest is Mohammed Bukar Umara, who is the Creative Director, Code Development Hub. So far, my guest has been impressive, and I must confess. You see, the young people in Nigeria have their own problems too. This is one fact we cannot shy away from. Yeah. Not too long ago, there was a vile trend on social media. It was reported that a serving senator assaulted a young lady in a shop. And now that trend resonated all over the world. So that is a young person. And it has always been the argument of the older generation that the young people in Nigeria are not responsible, that the young people in Nigeria are irresponsible. This is one fact I want you as a young person to look into in the course of our discussion. Having said that, Nigeria is known all over the world to be a nation of fraudsters, internet fraud, and so on. Yeah. These things are perpetrated by young people. It is prevalent among them. So, why are corrupt practices like internet fraud prevalent among young people in Nigeria?
Okay, talking about lack of responsibility for young people in Nigeria, I think if we really want to do justice to this topic, we have to see it from both sides. Because if you say because of the action of a young person who is in the Senate position is to be used to justify the responsibility or lack of responsibility for young people, I think it's not fair. It's not fair enough. And another thing is that I still even have an argument over what a young person is really in Nigeria. Because if you see, according to United Nations, a young person is somebody between the age of, I think the limit for the age of young people is I think 24 years, according to United Nations. And other establishments have it that is 40 years. And the person in topic now is even above 40 years, the person we are talking about. But having said that, I think if we are to judge by the action of young people or the action of an age group to say that, okay, this defines the people, then we can say this is prevalent among Nigerians, not only young people. Because we've seen in the past in the Senate even exchanging blows, exchange of blows between, not young people, I'm talking about older people, you understand, in the Senate House.
Legislators.
Okay, so...
Yeah,
exactly. So how can we define that as the totality of the older generation or the older people? We can't use that. And talking about young people doing that, we can also say that, okay, how about other young people that are doing things that provides an alternative narrative to that? Just last week, we heard of a young person who serves in the Nigerian military, who found $37,000 and returned it. He wasn't asked to return it. I think these are stories that need to be pushed out about young people, which provides an alternative narrative. The slapping senator or the senator that assaulted somebody did it out of his own, out of his own responsibility, not out of the responsibility of the Nigerian young people.
I understand when you say it is wrong to attribute a vile act of one person as being that of the whole youth in Nigeria. I understand it from that standpoint.
Yeah.
But you see, for young people to have any meaningful headway, they need to occupy positions of decision making and positions of power. And political office gives them that possibility.
Yeah.
Occupying a political office gives them that. Yeah. Now, in Nigeria, the senator we are talking about who assaulted the lady, and then there is a governor somewhere who is also relatively young and is seen as not a very good role model for the young people. These are some of the people who give bad light to young people generally. Yeah. You know, we cannot run away from this very fact. Yeah. But I understand the point you are trying to make.
Yeah.
What I'm saying in essence is, if we must fight corruption, if we must have a meaningful headway, what are the kind of young people we need in position of power?
Well, you know, for a society or for a community, I think things that have to do with responsibility have to do with how good you deliver governance.
Good, that's true.
You know, in the case of the senator that assaulted a woman, I think his actions is bordering on lack of morals, you understand, not lack of good governance or whatever. The senator can be very good in his governmental work. He can be good in delivering services to his people, but he's morally not sound because he did something that is totally unacceptable in morals.
And that is bound to rub off on him generally.
Exactly. I understand. But if we say young people, now we have to be talking about what are the kind of young people we need to have in key positions.
That's the point.
That is very, very important. Because today, politics, not just of recent maybe, but before, politics is something that is being perceived by young people as an avenue for corruption, you know, as an avenue for embezzlement of public funds and the rest. So most of the very competent young people that should be in key positions are not venturing into politics.
And that's a big problem.
That is a big problem. And that has to do with the orientation of the Nigerian youth populace. If not of recent, that people started seeing potentials in politics. But before, many young people, if you ask them to go into politics, they think as if, okay, this is just an avenue to go and get money. You understand?
So what will you advise on that note?
Well, the advice I can give is that the older generation have a huge responsibility of setting, of paving a way. And
they don't seem to be doing it.
Alternative.
The older generation don't seem to be doing what you are suggesting. Well, so what will the young people do without the older generation on their own?
Well, young people have to mobilize.
Good.
Understand? Mobilization and participation is very, very key for young people to take over power. You cannot take over power overnight. You understand?
Yeah.
There is too much of struggle is involved in taking power. But most importantly, apart from mobilization, the right young people have to be mobilized. Not only young people. We have many young people that are very good enough, but maybe they don't have, what it takes to get people. You know, sometimes it doesn't have to be only you being good in delivering services. Yeah. You have to be good in politics to get into a political office. So there is this gap between being good and also being good in politics. And until young people start to understand that it's not about who gives you money to get into power. It's about who will deliver when he gets into power.
Thank you very much. As a young innovator, please describe how best you can use digital strategies to fight corruption.
Well, digital strategies are already being employed in fighting against corruption in Nigeria and other parts of the world. And we can see examples of using even digital storytelling to tell about stories of projects, uncompleted projects, and other corrupt practices. And organizations like Connected Development uses, storytelling to create awareness and also to create to follow projects. They use storytelling and other platforms like using the mobile technology. Many people can fight against corruption, especially young people. Young people spend most of their time today on phones, but what are they doing with the phones? They are either singing or doing something that doesn't have to do with improving the social being of our people. I think using digital strategies like mobile technology would go a long way in fighting against corruption.
Okay. Examples of this. Sorry about that. Because of time, we're actually running out of time. So, What is your advice to the older generation?
Well, my advice to the older generation, especially the ones that are already in positions of power, is that tomorrow holds more than what today holds. And the older generation should think of the world and how it would be when they are no more. And it shouldn't be about only today, it should be about tomorrow. How would the world be tomorrow? And they should also think about the future of their children, because when we are talking about the older generation, we can't shy away from the fact that we are related to the older generation. The younger generation is the product of the older generation. And whatever happens today is what would be replicated tomorrow, because we are already looking up to the older generation.
Thank you very much.
So they should set a very good example for the leaders of tomorrow, if young people are the leaders of tomorrow.
I appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Well, that is the much we can take on the program.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate your being here.
Thank you very much.
And then I'm hoping that subsequently, if we have need to bring you back, you will oblige us with your presence.
It will be my pleasure.
Thank you. Well, viewer, in case you are just joining us, that is the much we can take on the program. If you've had a nice time being with us, why not keep it the same time, same station next week for another episode of the program. Until then, so long.